Welcome to Three Takes. I'm Ishana.
I'm Minali.
I'm Mona.
Three women.
Three generations.
One family, unpacking the questions we all ask. The twins are almost 3 months now, and I've been thinking a lot as they're growing older, and now they're showing signs of recognizing our faces and smiling at us. And a lot of times I just think to myself, am I doing this parenting thing right? You don't really get any kind of positive reinforcement when they're this young. I feel like you don't realize it until they grow older and like how they turn out. But I think about how our parents raised us and like how we have such an open relationship with them, and in terms of how we communicate and the trust that we've built over time. And I really want that for our kids too. But the question I want to tackle with you all today is, what does trust between parent and child look like, and how does that evolve with time?
I think each parent probably go through that, like when the kids are born, and really they want to have a good relationship, that bonding, that connection, and that trust. I really want to ask you guys, when you say trust, how each of you define trust?
Trust as a concept, we all understand, but I think the definition of trust probably differs by person. So when I typically think of trust, I think of it being a relationship, whether it is with a coworker, with a mentor, a romantic relationship with a family member. So the first criteria is it's some form of a relationship. And the second criteria for me in trust is the ability to share what I feel, what I think with this person, and knowing that their response is going to be non-judgmental and also a safe, not necessarily secret, but a safe space to be able to talk and do things together.
I like that criteria that you have. To expand on that, in addition to trust being a part of a relationship, for me, that relationship needs to have a degree of mutual respect in order to have trust. And then the second part of trust for me is being able to have honest conversations with somebody and know that they have the best intentions for me, even though they can be judgmental. Because you guys judge me all the time when I tell you things, but I trust your judgment. So yeah, I think mutual respect and having good intentions are what trust means to me in a relationship.
If I literally define trust, to me it looks like that you are transparent, but also there is a reliability, there is an understanding, the self-respect, and the safe place, because it's a very conceptual thing. So that's what the definition wise I see that, the transparency, reliability, understanding, safe place, and the self-respect sort of so. But I think in the relationship, how you build, it depends on who you are referring to, because for my child, I might define trust level different than versus I'm defining for my coworker.
Yeah, it's good that we all laid our definition of trust, and there's definitely overlap. But then there's also specificities that we each have within it. And for the sake of this episode, that as you were talking about earlier, we're really wanting to focus on just trust between a parent and a child. And we're in a unique position where we have you as our mom, and then you have us as your children. And I think it's a good topic to explore, because trust can have varying levels between a parent and a child.
You're the one who's more experienced, Mama, but do you think it starts at the level of infancy? Like how you show up for your kids when they're born?
Not able to talk?
Yeah, how do you even start?
I think it starts as soon as the kids are born, because they cannot speak. They can feel, right? So the touch and feel, they know that, right? When the kids are born. So I think maybe the way I look when you were born, maybe the verbally, I couldn't define, I couldn't say, but how we cared as a parent, or how we made sure you feel safe. Like that was our way of defining trust when you were born, right? So that's what it is. But then it changes when you start school, elementary, and then you are grown up, right? Then the trust build is that when you are teaching your kids, you are teaching them the values, right? But then the kids, that time probably the trust is, okay, you are, as a mother, I'm telling you, and probably you are just following me.
And maybe something that's good to preface is that for you and me, we have a very strong, trusting relationship with Mama and our dad, Papa. So a lot of the context of what we're going to be talking about is the fact that we have a very established, trusting relationship. And so I'd be curious, Mama, from your perspective, because we have that relationship with you, do you think this was something that you were able to create for both of us because you also had that relationship with your parents?
Yeah, I do for me, particularly because I grew up in a very, very open family environment. So definitely I wanted that. I did not want to create an environment where my kids respect and trust me because I'm their mother or Manoj is your father. I think it's because of the actions and the relationship we wanted to build. And that was a chance. Even after trying, maybe it would have worked that way and it would have not. So that's what I was saying initially. Probably what we said, you just did it without asking any questions. But then you started elementary, middle school, your thinking also changed. So as a parent also, we also adopted that just because you question what we are saying doesn't mean that you are not trusting us. You are curious, you have your own views on certain things, and you want to live that way. So to me, it looks like the trust also evolved. Somebody as born, me telling you like, this is what I think. So I taught you what I believed, right? But then you guys taught us that, well, think about that reasoning. So the trust keeps building on each other. And it means the challenge is okay, saying no is okay, and saying yes is okay.
Yeah, could you expand a little bit on how you were saying you wanted your actions to speak more than you just telling your kids, oh, you trust us because we're mom and dad? Like, maybe talk about how you were very intentional with your actions on that.
When it came to what you wanted to do in your life, just because we think this is good or right, this is what it is, what we wanted, the way that what our kids pay, what they have interest on, what field they want to go, just because we grew up in a very standard education system. You take science, you take business, you do, and you become doctors, you become engineers, you do this. And I really know that parents believe that their kids bounding their trust when the kids listen to them. For us, it was important that what your creativity, which direction you want to go, we respect that. We build that trust rather than enforcing that this is what we believe. And I think that's what small things probably build the relationship. It's not just the one thing. So you come and tell us some secret, or when you tell us the lowest point, in the middle school, when the kids were, mean to some of them, there was a bullying and all of them. You came as a trusted partner to us and you trusted. There was a time when you guys said, okay, don't share this to anybody. So we have to respect that and at the same time support you. So I think those little things builds the trust.
I guess flipping the question back to you, right? Mama was talking about actions and behaviors that her and Papa did to at least try for them to think that we can trust them. From your reflection on childhood, what do you think made you trust our parents so much with things?
I believe a lot in role modeling behavior as a way for children to learn about the world. So one, I saw a very healthy marriage and relationship, and I saw how they trusted each other with different relationships, when it came to matters of family, how they wouldn't just go about sharing matters that were private to them. So I saw that. And then also I would say, I think what I really respected a lot was just how if we would come to them and tell things, they would be accountable for that and not share things or not try to put us down if something we said didn't agree with them. Even with my mom, though, I also remember like she would also tell us things. Like it wasn't a one-way relationship where it was just us always like talking to her, you know, sharing insecurities. Like she also did the same with us, and our dad did too. Mama did more so. And so I think it was like seeing a certain vulnerability with our parents that I also think helped build trust. And I think the other part that I really respect is as we grew older, like they would let us be independent thinkers.
Yeah.
Without just telling us that this is the way you need to see the world. You have to fit within this box. And that's not to say they didn't provide us guidance, or if they thought that we weren't heading in the right path, they wouldn't try to correct us, but they would do it gently, and they wouldn't just like force opinion or say like, how could you even think like that? And they were never emotionally manipulative, like being like, oh, well, if you don't do things this way, mommy's going to feel so bad. I don't remember having those types of moments with the parents. What do you think, Ishana?
I agree. I think a lot of it kind of goes back to this concept of nature versus nurture, right? I think trust with parents is very much due to the nurturing that you receive. And I think when I think back to trust in general, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are definitely things that I would tell, but I would be like, I'm scared of what they're gonna think. Like, you know, even things of like, oh, I have a crush on this boy, and it was like 5th grade, right? Like, what is the reaction gonna be? Who knows? Because that's just like a natural secret to then share. You're like, what are people gonna think? So I do want to caveat that, but I think a lot of it came from listening as opposed to me saying right away, like, oh, mama, like I got a D on this quiz. And typically people's and parents' reactions are like, you didn't study enough, like we need to get a tutor, right? And it's more like we would review the quiz, see what I got wrong. And some of them, yes, were silly mistakes, but it was never this like, you're dumb and now this pressure to now you need to get A's for the rest of it. Like I did a lot of tutoring, right? When there was exams that I didn't do well on. And there was trust where I never felt like I needed to hide my grades, for example, or forge a signature on a report card. Because I think my parents understood the way that I comprehended information and the way that I learned. And so we were able to develop that trust. So I think a lot of it was just the nurturing that we received. And then I think that there's something you mentioned that was really big, I think especially with mama, is that, and it goes back to my definition of trust, is that it's a relationship. So trust has to be built on both sides. So mama has come to us, even at a very young age, saying things that she could easily have kept inside, or that, you know, maybe we were too young to know, but she told us. And so when someone shares something that makes them vulnerable, then I want to trust that person even more and share something that is vulnerable to me as well.
One important aspect of trust in my definition, if somebody is sharing, if you're going to make it low, maybe right there, you put that shield, that guilt. I remember we did that. We talk about guilt all the time, you know, telling, oh, I knew it. This was going to happen. I knew it, you know, or saying, oh, you know what? I don't believe, but, you know, someone was telling, that's how you are. Like, you know, so those manipulative putting down, that's where the bridges started breaking of trust. And I think it's mutual. Like, you know, you never, that's why Papa and I were able to share our struggle, our lowest point. And we as a family came together. And with that mind that our girls will be a grown-up adult. And we might have to draw that boundaries that as the relation evolves, the trust will be still there, but we might not be able to share every single thing.
That's so true. And that's something that I had growing pains with, like once I got married, because we grew up in the environment of we share everything. And, you know, I would say it is unique in the sense of like, we do have a friendship, even though it is a mother-daughter relationship, it is also a friendship. I don't necessarily think you have to have that between a parent and child to have a strong relationship. You don't have to have the friendship piece. But I think we did have that. But what I realized once I was married is that in order to preserve aspects of the relationship with your partner, you can't share everything in anything, right? So if I'm like mad, like with Rahul about a small thing that he said, But then if I share it immediately with you all, it becomes a much bigger problem than if I would have just like talked to Rahul about it, right? As opposed to just trying to troubleshoot with you all, which I learned during our engagement period, like actually even during our wedding planning period. Like that was a lot of growing pains for us because Rahul and I were still learning how to set boundaries with our parents who we respect and admire dearly and who we do trust. But at the same time, in order to build trust with our own relationship, we can't share everything and anything. Like we have to be a bit more guarded in what we share.
Oh, I was just saying, I wonder if this is also a girl thing. I think girls in general like share so many details, right? Like even with my fiance, when he comes home, I'm like, how was your day? And it was good. It's like, I want the details, like tell me the play-by-play. So I do think that's a balance too of, trying to not overshare, but then also guys or partners needing to understand that we like the details.
Yeah. One of the things what Minali was saying that when you were getting married during engagement and wedding, you and Rahul have to, figure out how the boundaries and all that. We have to do the same thing too. So Manoj and I also said that, okay, now Minali is getting married. They're in a new relationship. They are becoming husband and wife. But we were confident that we have built that trust. But just now going forward, we have to shift our mindset. There's certain things we will know later. Some things we might not even know. And what we advise versus not tell, this is good or bad, we have to keep that. So sometime I know you said, you guys have mentioned that my husband Manoj, like he will preach, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And the girls will be like, okay, we know that. So like I have to really literally talk to him is, listen, they are grown-up adult. When they want to buy a home, when they want to have kids, they want to buy a car, that's enough. Let them figure out their own things. But then he also had to tell me that, listen, it's their life. You cannot worry what time they are coming home, what time they are reading. When you say that you are not able to sleep because 3/4 of your time you're thinking about the kids. So let them live their life. We have done whatever we need to, and now they need to build a new relationship. So I think it's a shift. We still know that whether you share or not, we know that you trust us, and I know that you also know that we, it's mutual.
I agree. We've talked a lot about how our upbringing really reflected the ability to build trust, and then that you were mentioning that you're trying to figure out how to do that with the twins through nonverbal cues, I guess, since they can't really speak. But I also think on the flip side, sometimes it's really hard to build trust because of the relationship of a child and a parent and the roles that those categories fit into. The reason we're having this topic is because building trust between a parent and a child is not an easy thing to do. So from your guys' opinion, what is it that just makes it a hard relationship to have trust on?
It requires shifting your mindset, because I think when, like, my babies are literally newborns, like, or almost at the end of the newborn phase, and then they're going to be, toddlers. And in that phase of life, you literally have to guide them and do everything for them. They are completely dependent on you. As they get older, they are less and less dependent on you, and they become more independent. And that, I think, as a parent, I haven't hit that phase yet, but I would think that would require a certain mindset shift, because they were so dependent on you and now they're not. And how do you still maintain your parental guidance while also giving them a certain level of independence? And that also requires trusting yourself. Like, did I raise my kid right to now let them go off in the world and be independent? That's my theory on this, but Mama's actually lived it out, so.
Yeah, I think that's so true, that it's a shift of mindset, and it is hard to let it go, because you always worry about your kids. You don't want them to get hurt and feel like, in a given situation, every parent will want a perfect situation for their kids, but that's not what the life is about. So I think shifting, yes, some decisions if you make, if it has a consequences as a parent, will it hurt us? Or sometimes if we will question that we knew it, how could have we helped that there? But some of the consequences you just have to live. You have to accept it, that in every single point of your life, we won't be there with you. So the more independent we make our kids, the better it is. I remember when I got married, and as I was saying that I'm from such a close family, I didn't know, what would I do without my parents, because, and my father always used to tell that Mona being the youngest and, the most spoiled and the pampered one, I really, how she is going to deal with everything, suddenly. But I think I surprised him. He told me that he's really proud of me, that how I was to make decisions, certain decisions I did not make right, but I fell. But a lot of tears, a lot of those, I got up from that, And not necessarily I told my parents, because I thought that's something which I always used to share a lot of things, that many things I didn't share. So I understood that, it was not easy, but I understood that with each new relationship, it is important to evolve and set the boundaries, whether it's with your parents, it's with your kids, with your friends, it changes.
Something I like that you really said was around boundary setting, because I think there's also this misconception that trust means we tell each other everything. But to your point, there's still trust even though we are not telling you every single thing, right? Dada was just talking about how not everything that goes on in her and Rahul's relationship is being told to either one of us, right? But that doesn't mean that we're not trusting of each other. Because at the same time, lying, I think, is even worse. And finding out just seems like a much bigger consequence when you could have just upfront said things of what was going on.
I mean, I think in terms of just thinking about the big things, especially in the South Asian diaspora, right? So like children, like Indian Americans who've grown up here, like I think to Ishana's point, I remember seeing a lot of people lying about grades and lying about relationships that they were in. And I think a lot of that is because their parents had very rigid definitions of what their kids' success should look like, who they should marry, what kind of grades they need to have, like what colleges are acceptable for them to get into. Like, I think when there's that kind of strict, rigid mentality around what a kid can and cannot do, then it does push kids away and makes them hesitant to share important things in their life, right?
I'm just thinking of a really funny moment where I was a senior in high school when COVID hit, right? Like senior year was my year. I was like legal. I was supposed to go out. And so we came back home over COVID. But I was like, I'm still going to live out my senior year. And I remember the first night we had friends over and I was drinking and I drank way too much. And both of you were at home too. So you both had to like hold my hair back as someone was like puking over the toilet. Right. And I think if I didn't have that trust, like I had like no shame that I needed help and I was struggling because you guys knew that I drink and like I'm a college kid. It's natural. But I could foresee that situation going wrong in other instances if parents didn't know that I drank and I all of a sudden get so drunk that I can't even handle it and then being scared the next day of what my parents were going to say. Yes, like, should I have drinking less? And did I get told that? Yes, but it was just like, it was one of those nights where I didn't really have fear of hiding how much I was drinking.
I remember, we remember that because we have to clean up the house big time, so we know that. The other thing also, as we're talking, I was thinking, as the kids older, there is how the things change. So I think from just recently, there are two things which I can think of. So what happened is this, trust when you were little, there are many things about you guys I will share with my family members, my friends and all of that. As you started making own decision, I rely on you then when it is appropriate for us to release those information. So one of the example is that Minali, when you told us about that you were pregnant with the twins, right? When you gave us the permission that it is okay to tell now to the family and the friends, that's where, we did. So typically, if you were young, probably I would have told about your, whether your college admission or your something earlier. I didn't have to wait for you. But here I know that my kids are adult. And even when both the twins were born, you specifically told us that you really want to right now tell immediate family because you and Rahul are going to announce, I have to respect that, right? It's not like that I am distrusting my other immediate family or not telling my best friends, because my trust, it evolves. And my friends and my other family member understand that I have to keep Minali's trust, right? So, it evolved. The same thing with Ishana. So when Ishana's wedding invitation, the save the date went out, when people ask that which venue it is, and I know that they are planning on the website, they want the details to come in their own way. So, I have to tell, it will be up to kids when they tell, first.
Do you think people respect that? Do you think they get it?
I don't know. I think I'm assuming they get it. And if they don't get it, probably they will get it soon, because, I have to keep the boundaries and the trust of my kids. My relationship are with you, the same with them. But as the role changes, that also evolves. So the boundaries, that's where the boundaries come. I'm best friend to you. I am your immediate, family member. But I have to really keep the trust who my kids right now want it to be told or not told.
I also do think, as we've been going through this conversation, not to say that it's a burden, but I do think a lot of the responsibility of maintaining and keeping the trust falls on the parent in the parent-child relationship. Would you agree with that, Mama?
I think it's mutual, but the parents in the sense, because you have to manage a lot of other people also, right?
I'm
thinking
of, I remember when I first started driving, I would always have to text them. We both did, like when we reach and when we're leaving. And at the time, I was like 16. So I was like, this is very irritating. Let me drive my car and do my thing. But now I'm like, oh my God, that was so trusting of them to let me drive around everywhere at any time of the day. The least I could do is just let them know when I reach and when I'm leaving. So I think you as parents also have to deal with our mood swings and our evolution of not having as many life experiences.
And we still deal with your mood swings, so that's okay.
I have a question. A lot of what we're talking about is that there's this evolution of trust and it starts at an early age. But for maybe parents or children where there isn't that much trust, but they really want to have a trusting relationship, we're not ones to give advice, but thoughts on how you can start later on if it wasn't there earlier?
I know few people whose the bonding was not as trust over the years it's evolved. And I do believe that a lot of times circumstances, the understanding, the mindset, just because something didn't happen, you cannot repair those things. I think it can build. It requires work and it requires consistency behavior. I think where it breaks is one day it's very good, you are doing. The second day you are breaking, then you are doing good. You can always start later. That's not a problem. But how do you keep the consistency of that? I think that is important.
And I think it also needs to be something that both parties want.
Of course. Trust is only can happen when both sides. It cannot be a one-way street. Because somebody has to feel that you are trustworthy, right? Like you cannot, I can tell you that, Ishana, I know you trust me and all of that. But you can rank me, 5. You are absolutely wrong. You can pretend, but you might really not telling me and, sharing things or coming to me.
That just did a huge yawn in the middle.
I know.
I'm not trying to say
I'm also laughing to myself because I'm like, we're not Socrates. Like, we're not like trying to be preachy here, but
but I think that's our sleep deprived from the twins. That's
I know, because like
is.
you want to feel like, I'm in the trenches right now, but you want to feel like those night feeds and those diaper changes and like all those crying and like the times that you're there, just like being present with the kids. Like you want it to feel like it's like, you want it to feel like you're doing something, like it's worth it. Like, will this like create a trusting relationship for them later on?
And I also think, like, as you were saying that you have twins, the newborn, how you want to build that trust relationship. As we get older, or even when I see my mom, we also fear that we should not lose the trust what we have built. Because with my mom, I know that me checking her, calling her, just, sometimes she can't even hear or listen to things fully or what I'm saying, but I think just feeling that I trust her, I'm asking her what she's doing. And I think sometimes she tells me the same TV serial story. But like, I have to say that, oh, my mom, oh, what happened next?
Yeah.
Because I think it is the trust that I'm listening to her, that I think that is important. And I think it is as important when the newborn are there, and that relationship, it is very important when they are elderly also, because everybody feel a safe place when there is a trust.
I think that's a good place for us to
Yeah.
maybe start our takeaways.
I think my takeaway is that it takes two to tango, truly. I think sometimes I maybe took it for granted that there is just this trusting relationship, but it does actually take effort. I think the second thing that I've realized is that it does evolve. So even as I enter my new life stage of getting married, trust is still going to be there. It just will look different.
I think for me, a point you brought up, Ishana, is that trust isn't just about sharing anything and everything. And that especially as kids get older, become independent thinkers, like there's a level of trust that will look different over time. And that's okay. And that's normal. And that's actually healthy. A point that Mama brought up, which I am hoping that I can utilize when I'm raising my own kids, is just the act of listening more than anything else. I think listening and not just forcing my own opinions or beliefs on my kids without hearing them out, I think will also help establish trust.
I think for me also, I think to have trust, it has to be mutual and it has to be consistent. And I think, as you both have said, that not putting anybody down.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of 3 Takes. We started this episode defining what trust meant to each of us. We'd love to hear what it means for you all and any other topics around trust that you'd like us to talk about. If you like this episode or want to share it, please do so. You can also connect with us on Instagram at 3.takes. Email us at connect@3takes.com or visit our website at 3takes.com.
Thanks for joining us on 3 Takes. If something we shared sparked a new thought or opened up a conversation with someone you love, we want to hear about it. DM us on Instagram at 3.takes, email us at connect@3takes.com, or visit us at www.3takes.com. And if this episode meant something to you, share it with another mother, daughter, or sister in your life. It's how we grow and keep the stories moving.
Recording me, it didn't say that 1, 2, 3,
No,
4,
the
5.
recording has... Yeah, it did. It started.
Oh, it's already started. Okay,
Okay,
good.
okay.
Yeah.
So I... Edit.
That's okay.